Story 1. The Night Watcher. It was my first night as a security guard at a warehouse just outside Birmingham's industrial district. The building was huge, silent, and smelled faintly of oil and dust. The manager, a bloke called Ray, showed me the essentials: the CCTV room, the break room with its rattling vending machine, and the endless corridors lined with metal storage units. "Nothing much happens here," Ray said, handing me a battered torch. "Check the cameras every 20 minutes. Do a walk around once an hour. Easy money." By 1 a.m., the place felt unnervingly still. Even the hum of the fluorescent lights seemed to fade. I sat in the CCTV room, sipping stale coffee, eyes scanning the black and white screens. Then on camera 6, I saw him. At the far end of corridor B, a man stood motionless. He wasn't walking, wasn't doing anything, just staring directly at the camera. Thinking it might be a cleaner or an employee who'd got locked in, I grabbed my torch and made my way down the hall. The sound of my footsteps echoed unnaturally loud, bouncing off the metal walls. But when I reached the spot where I'd seen him, nothing. Empty space. I hurried back to the monitors. My stomach dropped. The man was still there, but now he was halfway down the corridor, closer to the lens. I rewound the footage. There was no moment where he moved. One frame he was far away, the next he was nearer, like he'd jumped through space. I tried the intercom. Static. Then, without warning, all the monitors flickered. On camera 6, the man was right up against the lens now, filling the frame. His eyes were wide, unblinking, his mouth slightly open as if mid-breath. I slammed the monitor switch, plunging the room into darkness except for the faint glow from the corridor lights outside. For the rest of my shift, I didn't move from the chair. Ray told me the next day that camera 6 hadn't worked in years. Story 2. The Shop in the Cellar. Back in 2017, I got a part-time job in a small, old-fashioned bookshop in Bath. The place was charming in daylight, shelves stacked high with secondhand novels, the air smelling of paper and wood polish. But the building was older than it looked. Beneath it lay a basement used for storage, which Harriet, my manager, described as a bit of a labyrinth. On my first shift, Harriet asked me to sort through boxes of books in the basement. I descended the narrow wooden stairs into dim light and cool air. The stone walls sweated moisture, and the floorboards creaked even when I stood still. I'd been working for about an hour when I heard footsteps above me, slow, dragging, heavy. I called up to Harriet, thinking she might need help, but she didn't answer. The sound grew louder, passing right over my head. That's when I noticed something strange, thin beams of light spilling between the ceiling boards, but the pattern was wrong. It looked as though there was another hidden room above the basement, but beneath the shop floor. The footsteps stopped. I strained to listen. That's when the whispering started. Two voices, low and urgent, speaking too quickly for me to catch the words. They weren't Harriet's voice. I bolted up the stairs, but when I emerged, the shop was empty. Harriet came in through the back door a minute later, cigarette in hand, saying she'd been outside the whole time. Over the next few weeks, I started dreading the basement. The whispers came back on different days, sometimes accompanied by faint tapping on the ceiling beams. Once, I heard something slide slowly across the floorboards above me, followed by a long sigh. Months later, a customer mentioned the building had once been part of a network of connected basements and tunnels, many of which were sealed off after an incident in the 1800s. She wouldn't elaborate. I never asked Harriet about it. Some things are better left in the dark. Story 3. The Locked Room. In 2014, fresh out of school, I took a care assistant job at a residential home in Cornwall. My first day was full of introductions, friendly residents, the smell of disinfectant, and the constant hum of the heating system. The manager, Mrs. Porter, walked me through the building. At the far end of the top corridor, she stopped at a heavy wooden door. "We don't use this room," she said quickly. "It stays locked. You don't need to worry about it." That night, after helping an elderly resident to bed, I was walking back to the staff room when I heard it, a loud, deliberate bang from down the hall. It came again, rhythmic, as if someone inside that locked room was pounding on the wall. The hair on my arms prickled. I called for Mrs. Porter, but before she reached me, the banging stopped. She unlocked the door to prove it was empty. The air inside was stale, and dust coated the bare floorboards. But there was something else, a faint indentation in the wood, like someone had been standing in the same spot for a very long time. Over the next month, I heard the banging several more times. Other staff admitted they'd heard it too, though no one ever caught the source. One night, as I passed the room, I thought I heard a voice behind the door, a woman's voice, murmuring words I couldn't make out. On my last day, one of the oldest residents, Mrs. Blake, beckoned me over. Her eyes were cloudy, but her voice was sharp. "They put her in there," she whispered. "A long time ago. She died locked inside. Sometimes she knocks. Sometimes she talks. But she never leaves." I left that afternoon and never went back. A few years later, I heard the care home had been shut down. The official reason was structural issues. I couldn't help but wonder if the locked room was finally empty or if she was still waiting.